Good morning. I'm so excited for today's conversation, you guys. Mastering mortgages, mindset, and money. Today we have a conversation with Chris Biaggi, the CEO and founder of All Western Mortgage. We have Braden Hatchman Loans, your friendly neighborhood loan officer, and your host, is Bryce Fransen, the lending giant. But first off, we're going to start off. I'm going to hand over the mic to Chris. Sir, thank you so much for spending the time this morning with us.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me. And I've been looking forward to this call as well. We were talking earlier about just the nature of our business and how you two have really kind of stood out to me. And I've enjoyed following you on social media and really enjoyed watching you guys communicate to your community over the last number of months. So, I think Braden, I'd like to start with you if that's okay. Obviously I follow you on social media. You do a fantastic job. Your videos are very, they're just educational, informational. I think they give a lot to the community that you're involved in. That community though is fairly specific. And I want to ask you, first start with, you seem to focus on first-time home buyers. That's a very important buying segment for you personally. And tell me a little bit how you got interested in, really focusing on first-time home buyers.
Yeah, it's funny. So I've just kind of, I've always been in banking and finance, and I purchased a home fairly young. I was 23 years old when I bought my very first house, and that was before I was even in the mortgage industry. But now that I'm in it, I really always just kind of helped those first-time home buyers. That's who I just seemed to attract and just started to work with. I remember helping my very first client. I still remember him to this day. I have a whole episode on him. His name was Alan Calderon, Mexican immigrant, didn't speak any English whatsoever, never thought he'd be a homeowner, and just going through that process with him, helping him realize homeownership and making it happen. Like he literally was in tears at the closing table after we told him that he was a homeowner. He's like, I never in a million years thought that I would own a home in America. It was just such a touching thing for me. And so to help him do that, and then to help educate others on what the power of homeownership can do, like once you get that first home, how it can set you up for success in your future financially. And I think, I use myself as an example of that. I'm just a, small town kid from here in Arizona. My parents weren't homeowners growing up. We actually lived with my grandparents most of my life. And so, just what homeownership has been able to do for me financially, and then as well as just what it can do for others. So that's why I'm really passionate about just helping that type of individual, the type of person that knows that it's important. They know they want to do it, but they just have no idea how, and they don't know how to get to that next step. So that's why I focus on the education piece of it, like letting people know, like you don't need perfect credit. You don't need a ton of money. There's other programs. Like I'm big into problem solving and finding a solution. So whatever that excuse is, and I feel like it mostly comes down to credit or money. And so if we can solve those two things and help someone, get on the path home ownership and make it happen, that's what it's all about for me. So I just, continue to help those type of people and make content for them.
Yeah. So for you, that first client or one of your first clients, you were hooked from there. And
it just hooked me.
Yeah. And so, I think over time, the longer we're in this business, and for me, I'm not even gonna say how long I've been doing this, but I imagine it tends to get transactional. How do you keep focused on that part of it? That, hey, there's a person behind all of this. There's a family. There's that path to building wealth for that individual. How do you keep that passion alive?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think that can happen, right? The more especially in our business, we tend to focus on, how many units did we close or how much funding volume did we do? Like, I don't even like to talk about that very much because it is an individual. There are families, there are people behind this. And so for me, it really comes down to that very first conversation. So anytime I have someone, I try to go as deep as I can. I learn about them, their families, what their goals are in life, what they're trying to accomplish with homeownership. That way, it's not just hey, what's your rate? Here's your payment. That's real basic stuff that pretty much anybody can do. I like to go a little bit deeper, find out what their overall financial goals are and realize that they can accomplish them. And so if you can just have that initial conversation, go deep with them, understand their full process of where they're trying to be in life, like it makes you remember that, this is a family. Like you have to put yourself in that spot. Like I remember buying my first house and what a crazy roller coaster of a ride that was. Like that, these are the people that we're dealing with. So you can't just treat it as, oh, we'll get back to you, or we'll do this. Like, you have to be a little bit more involved. But I just always keep that focus. It's just, it's part of my process. I don't think of them as transactions. These are people that I'm helping better their lives. And if I do a good job, they're going to tell 2 or 3 other people about me as well. And then I get a chance to help even more. So it's just, that's the way I think of it.
Yeah. I mean, you're taking what we do to the next level when you think that way, and that leadership, because for us, again, going back to what I said, we do this every day. And after doing hundreds and hundreds of transactions, I think we lose sight of, or tend to lose sight of, how important it is to that particular person. And, for you to be providing that leadership is fantastic. And you're putting people on that path to building wealth for their family. I'm going to transition over to you, Bryce. Now, you and I have talked a lot about your concept, even kind of expands out a little bit more. And you and I have talked about, your passion for really providing a big picture, and taking it one step further, even beyond the mortgage that you're providing. Share a little bit with us, what your thoughts are on that, and how you kind of take that into your business each day.
Yeah, no, I love it. Yeah, I appreciate it. And Braden, every time, I don't know if Braden's actually, before I answer that, I don't know if Braden kind of shared, like, in some of the ways that, the conversations that him and I get to have with each other, and the impact that's being happening, or the questions that are coming up. He actually apparently, had a vision about us building something crazy together when it came down to it. And so when you realize that what you put out into the world really comes back, whether you believe in karma or whatever the concept it might be, I think it's super important. And so for me, it's actually been interesting. I've been in mortgages since 2017 now. Multiple big banks, all these different places. And, I used, before being in mortgages, worked in the consumer banking world, whether it was ops or business banking or wealth management or Merrill Lynch. And so I've gotten to see and experience a lot of the really holistic aspect of people's financial journey. And so I think, a few years ago, I started a financial services agency, but didn't really do a whole lot with it initially, because 2020, 2021 happened. And time was a commodity at that point, right? But one of the things I think I realized at the end of last year was, the concept that we've kind of run with is, it's more than a mortgage, right? It is someone's complete financial success that comes into the conversation. And so, from something simple as educating them on the concepts of money, how money works, the rules of money, right? Understanding compound interest, how it grows, how the tax advantage strategies come into play, protecting yourself with life insurance, making sure you have a trust, and you and your family, and the assets you're building, right? All the families that Braden is helping, and he's helped hundreds of people, if not thousands at this point, where it's like 7 out of 10 of them statistically wouldn't have a trust without someone like a Braden being in their life to have those conversations, right? Wouldn't be protected from, taxes and things like that would come down to play. And so the conversation, I think, in 2023 really became, how do we help somebody build and protect their wealth through real estate and financial literacy? Because 22 states in the country require any form of financial education, like any, to graduate high school. And I was like, that's got to change, right? If we think about, if I go real deep into it too, it's the conversation around money also impacts the relationships that we have, right? And so if 50% of divorces that happen, it's like 50 or 60% of those happen because of financial conversations or lack thereof. What if we could change how that happens when someone comes and says, hey, I want to buy a home. Hey, totally understand that. Do you think this transaction is going to impact your financial future? Yes. If that's the case, has anyone ever educated you on how money works so you understand how to leverage this tool? No. That's 9 out of 10 of the people that we ask those questions to. So we built out more of an educational platform to teach them. Now, obviously, we can provide and services and other caveats inside of that, but the idea was just information. There is a gap between the wealthiest, quote, quote, elite inside of America and middle-class Americans.
Yeah.
And really the biggest reason is education and understanding how to play the game a little differently. Because at the end of the day, money, real estate, it is kind of a game. I know it from an understanding concept, but then at the end of the day, it's emotional as all get out. So I think we spent a lot of time. I know I spent a lot of time this year, really putting together the right slides, the right things to educate people, the right, home buyer workshop books. Like Braden actually brought over one of our home buying guides that we now implemented as a branch. Like we're just constantly trying to figure out how do we get as much information in front of as many people so they can change the way they think. And if anything, it plants one seed and makes them think or process something differently.
Yeah, I want to. You made a great point that I want to go back to, because I was thinking I was going to ask this question, and then you said it. We tend to think that these higher level concepts are only for the rich.
Correct.
And I know that in my career, as I've kind of grown and continued to build this company with help guys like you, that different resources become available to you. People talk to you about different things. What you guys are doing is you're bringing that to every one of your customers, which is that's the magic right there. Really kind of giving your customer access to those thought processes, those concepts. All that information is really, really opening some doors. So how do you, so kind of narrow it down a little bit for me. So if I was one of your clients, and Braden, maybe you want to take this one, but give me an idea, share something with me that you share on a daily basis with your customers.
So for me, I really just share that there's nothing that's unsolvable. I feel like so many people, they get in this mindset where they can't do something for whatever reason. So with homeownership specifically, again, it could be credit score based. I have bad credit, I can't buy a house, or I don't have enough money, I can't buy a house. So just changing people's mindset a little bit, helping them understand that their goals are reachable if they just understand how to get to them, and maybe thinking a little bit about outside the box. And then again, using that education and asking for help. I'm the worst at asking for help. Like I don't like to do it, but I'm the first to give it all the time. Like I'm one of those guys that will give you the shirt off of my back, but I will not ask for something because I don't know. That's just how I am. But for me, I try to put it in that same idea. Like I'm not someone that really wants to ask for help, but if there's something out there and I can learn from it, then that's valuable to me, and I can increase my skill set and my knowledge, and then share that with others so that they can do the same. I really just feel that we got to put everything we know that's worked well for us, because there might be somebody in that exact same situation.
So you're taking personal experiences and really kind of putting them into play on a daily basis.
100%. So the stuff that I've learned throughout my life, the things that I've gone through to help get me to where I am today. And again, I'm still growing and figuring this out myself. I'm still working to become better every single day as well. But if I can help somebody that maybe just needs a little bit of a push, or maybe didn't understand something well enough, and help them get to the next step. To me, that's what it's all about, because there's been individuals that have done that for me in my life. And so if I can be that for someone else, I mean, that's the name of the game. We're helping people better their lives every day.
Yeah. I like to say that it's sort of your superpower, right? And
yeah.
And so, for the client, Mr. Calderon, I think you said his name was, right? Yep. That was you gave him your superpower and really provided that leadership to him to make those things possible. So, Bryce, for you, I think I hear you talking about some higher level instruments of economy, and so whether it's life insurance or whether it's tax scenarios. So, how did you, in terms of your background, how did you get that knowledge? How did you gain that information? And what kind of, for you, is been that kind of guidance there?
Yeah. I love it, Braden, too. Before Braden made a comment, he said about like, it's always the growth. I think, and to answer that question, it's kind of the end piece of that is understanding that when I pass and I'm at heaven's gate, I want to meet the person that I was supposed to be. I want to be as close to the best version of myself that I could possibly be. And I think if we focus on that every day, it's super crucial. If we can't be better, then we can't step up to the moment. You can't be, and actually Arjun said this perfectly at his event, was don't be bigger than the moment so you don't come off wrong, but don't be underprepared for the moment. Just be at the moment, right? And perform for it. And so I think, for me, it's 13 years of banking experience. And I started as a teller when I was 19. And by the time I was 26, had about 100 people that would indirectly report to me at one point or another. And then was in the leadership councils. And so I've always kind of run through that. But then one of the things that really clicked for me was I've always been the person that's looked 5, 10, or 20 years down the road. I'm like, okay, who's 10 years down the road for me with what I'm doing right now? Do they have the results that I want in life? And so I think a lot of times it was no. And so candidly, actually, how I got involved more so in the financial services aspect was back in 2020. A friend of mine reached out, connected with me, and obviously said, "Hey, like you should meet some guys that I know. You know, we're expanding some of the businesses that we're working on." So we met and kind of did that, and I ended up getting connected with a really really close friend of mine now. His name's Florio Mazares, and he kind of became like a mentor for me, and a lot of different caveats. And I think we did it for each other, and that was the cool part too. You know, I mean, he's 20 years of experience. He's been married for almost 20 years, a couple of kids, like, and kind of someone that just allowed me to grow in the way that I needed, right? Anyone that's ever tried to micromanage me in my past career, I just shut down. I'm like, nope, dude, like, I didn't want that. But it was like, if you could push me the right way, if you could say the right things, then I would be interested and I'd be willing to work with somebody. And so, not saying I was like stubborn, but I guess we all have that aspect. And so, candidly, it's been we sat down, and me and Lauren actually sat down to go through an education walkthrough that we take most of our clients through. And I'd been after a couple of years, had some rough, bad experiences because the financial service industry has good and bad, just like mortgage, real estate, and almost anything else. And I had gone through that personally, right? So I had my own personal experience of being like, I don't want to know, like, I don't want to be that. And so he set us through the education and understood what it was. And literally, Lauren, midway through, it turns to me, she's like, why the hell have you not been doing this for the past years? Is exactly how you want to impact people's lives. And I said, well, it's going to be added into everything I do from now on. And then it was figuring out how to integrate that conversation. And so it's been hours of building out scenarios for clients, studying, reading books, watching YouTube videos and education content that we have, and just absorbing it, being a sponge, right? And realizing that I wanted to help people win.
So that kind of brings us back full circle, because really what you're saying to me is, you know, you found that passion, you found that path that, hey, this inspires me, this excites me, this gets me going. Now it all makes sense, right? So it really was about investigating, you know, different areas of the business and finding that lane that you felt so confident in and comfortable running in. Let me switch gears a little bit here, Braden. I'm gonna ask you this question because going back to your social media, what I notice about it, and we talk about this all the time, but it's just consistent. It's always there. You're dedicated and committed to it. You know, certainly this has been a more challenging time for most of us, most loan officers in your position. You know, how do you stay focused? How do you stay up and positive and just kind of committed to your process? How do you do that day in and day out?
You know, it's just it's believing in the process. So early on when I got into my mortgage career, I really was starting to see social media. And again, this was, you know, 6-7 years ago. So social media wasn't even really being used in the same way that it was now. But I just saw this opportunity that's like, you've got hundreds of thousands of people consuming content. And so if I can create information that's helpful for others, and they find that, and it, you know, encourages them to, you know, make that next step and, you know, purchase a home when they couldn't think of, again, just sharing that knowledge. So to me, that's what it's all about. If I can consistently share that message and get a little bit better with it, where it attracts gets someone's attention and it causes them to act and better their lives for it. It comes down to that, because it's something I truly believe in. And I feel like that's the other part of it. If you're going to stay consistent with something, if you're going to do it, you have to believe in the long-term vision, knowing that you may not always get same-day results or even results within, you know, 3 weeks or 6 months or a year, whatever that looks like. But if you believe in something enough, you're going to keep doing it and the results will eventually come. So, you know, my social media, it wasn't an overnight success. Like, you should see my very first video that I ever posted. It was garbage. It was just, it was terrible audio. Like, I tried to edit it myself. It was really bad. But, you know, just knowing when you believe in it and then trying to get a little bit better every day, right? So I think a lot of it with like fitness and nutrition and things like that, right? Like I was, you know, previously overweight and I just wasn't happy with my life. And so I started to learn about what it would take to, you know, get my my health in a better situation. And again, it's just a lot of small little daily changes, and then you get a little bit better every day, you stick with it, and then eventually you kind of get the results that you want, and then that almost motivates you more to do even better. And so it's this effect where as you start to see a little bit of success, you want it to be a little bit better. And then even on the days when you're not feeling good, the results of doing something compared to not doing something. And so it's a win-win, right? Like if I don't post a video for the day, 100% no one is going to learn something about it. But if I do, and even one person gets something out of it, I don't care if I get one click or one view or 10,000, right? Like if one person gets something better out of that, it's a win for me.
And so I think and that's what comes across in your posts, I believe, because so what I'm hearing from you, this isn't just part of your job. You've made this part of your lifestyle.
This is my life's mission right here. This is it.
That's a difference. And going back to your physical and mental well-being, I think those are huge, right? And so you've already embraced that concept, that thought process of, hey, if there's a set of actions that are going to make me better, that are going to provide more to people, versus I think at times, especially when it comes to social media and not everybody is comfortable and confident in it and don't want to go through that learning curve that you've gone through. It's more of a job for them. And I think what comes through in your posts is that it's way more than that.
Yeah.
And so Bryce, for you, we talk about morale. You've got a team there. You've got some folks that you're responsible for. How are you keeping attitudes positive, morale high? You mentioned to me the other day, you do some events and some kind of team building and bonding. So, how for you are you providing that leadership right now?
Yeah, I think the leadership aspect and really everything is 100 times more heightened, specifically right now in our industry. Right. And so I think it was something that I don't even want to say it's simple, but yesterday, right? Like Braden and the rest of the team were over at my house. Like we had a team potluck. We played some cornhole. Eli Hernandez beat all of us every time for some reason. I don't get it. Braden's ambidextrous, so he was going right-handed, left-handed. He was doing backflips. I'm just kidding. But and I think it's focusing on the core things that really matter to people, candidly. We can do loans, we can quote, we can do these things, but if my team, if my guys really at this point know that I've got their back, then I think it gives a sense of relief to know that they can go out there. Now it's mindset stuff too. I mean, I'm a few times a week, they're getting a podcast quote episode from me. Listen to this. They're getting a daily growth message. We're part of a few growth things. Today, we're doing a 2024 business and SOP business planning session with one of my coaches that I'm a part of with the Play Bigger Mastermind. I did a podcast with her, Raquel. And she's built a team of 350 people. And she was the coach for the #1 EXP team in the world up in Northern California. They do almost $1 billion a year, right? So being around the right environment, I think is super important. And so for me, if I can continue to elevate myself as a person, then I can bring that back to my team, right? And it's having people like Eli help and run on the backside. So people like Braden, really, when it comes down to it, he can run with what he's passionate about. He can do the things of the business that make the most sense, and it's setting up the right place. So I think it's also realizing that the kind of corporate management to employee type mindset is not what I think at all. Of course, I have the branch manager title, but I'm anyone's like, hey, this is my branch manager. I always tell people, I'm like, hey, we're just in business together, right? I just have a title because I run the branch. That's it. We're business owners jointly. And that goes all the way down to, our LOA and our processor. I'm like, you own this piece of your business. I appreciate you. And I think that piece too, it's appreciation and it's recognition, right? Mm-hmm. Braden's first month here and he crushed it on a simple post. And Eli had his best month in his career last month. It's just celebrating that and sharing that. And just realizing that we're here and doing this together more than anything. And it's not a matter of it's your business and my business. It's literally our business together. The results that happen jointly are that much more important. And the wives have met each other. They've come together. Braden's wife loves the good rosé. My wife's in the wine industry. So man, did they talk? It's creating a culture that just allows us to grow as people. the business will grow alongside of that.
Yeah, that's and that's the difference maker. Look, those things that you noted, those successes, those are not accidents. Those are happening because of all the things that we've been talking about here today. And really, look, we can't control the market, we can't control rates, we can't control inventory. Sounds a little cliche, but we control our activity, we control the things that we can control, and ultimately I'm a firm believer those things will manifest themselves into success at some point down the line. It's funny you mentioned that like branch manager. It's funny when I introduce people, I always say, well, we work together, and the person will look at me and say, no, this is my boss, or this is my CEO. And to me, I'm the same way. We're a team and we do these things together. It's not about hierarchy or titles. It's about really working together and building those successes. So Braden, how do you see things playing out here then? Let's talk a little bit about, kind of what you see. We're heading into the holidays. This is traditionally slower time. What are you telling your first-time home buyers right now as you're talking to your customers? What are you telling them? How are you preparing them for what's to come next year?
Oh, definitely. So this is one of my favorite things. So touching on the business side of things first, I want to just touch on that with Bryce and everything that we talked about. We talked about growing this together, and we're all different people. We all have different skill sets. We're all good at different things, and I think it's just all about finding the right people that work together and kind of balance each other out. So maybe a skill set that I don't have, Bryce can counterbalance that, and vice versa. So that's really the goal, is just bringing everybody together so that we can become the best versions of ourselves by learning from each other. I like to look at what's going on in the world, right? We can't ignore that there is a ton of negativity around housing right now, around mortgages, around interest rate. So you can't just ignore that and tell them that, oh, everybody's wrong. Like you have to talk about why that's happening. And so you have to address it head on and then talk about it, get real with people. It's like every situation is different. The world is going to continue moving. Things are going to keep happening. But what are you doing with your life, and where are you right now? Are you in a position to purchase a home? Is it the right move for you? What are your plans 2 to 3 years from now? So it's really just having those deep conversations with people, figuring out what it is they want to do, and then being straight up with it. So, talk about their fears. One of the big ones right now is, well, I think there might be a crash and interest rates might come down. So wouldn't it be smarter if I just wait, because then I can get a lower priced home, get a lower this? It's like, okay, well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about, if you bought today and the market crashed and interest rates went down, what are the repercussions of that? What could happen? So just having those real conversations with people and realizing, like, hey, if you go in and buy a house and let's say the market crashes, right, it goes down by $10,000 or $20,000. Well, if you're going to be there for the next 3 years, it's going to take care of itself. So like I share my situation. I bought my very first house in 2009, which was, again, it was after the crash, but homes were not all the way to the bottom yet. The prices were still coming down. And I knew that going into it. I knew that when I bought my house, I was probably going to lose value for the next 2 to 3 years. But because I understood that, by the time it did catch up and by the time it did get there, I knew that the long-term investment still made sense and I still needed a place to live. So I think it's just having those real conversations with people, addressing their fears up front and talking about it, and then using math to help them realize that, maybe it isn't a smart idea to wait, and here's what could happen, and here's the pros and cons of the whole situation. So it's addressing those head on and having those real conversations with people. That way they can make the best decision for what works for them, because there's not a one size fits all in this business, right? There's not one solution for everybody.
Yeah. And I think that's the important part of it. And that's, again, we've used this word a few times, but the leadership that you're providing your customers is right there. And it's not, there is a balance. Obviously, there's a commission to be earned when we close a loan, and of course that's to our benefit. But ultimately, what you've done is you've really set yourself up as the subject matter expert, and really coming from a perspective of education and information, rather than, hey, I need to earn a commission. And I think that's, again, kind of what shows through in everything that you've done. Bryce, what tools are you using right now to get that information out to your customers?
Yeah, I mean, and Braden, I've talked about that a lot, candidly. I'll come back. I think one of the things that actually comes up is, and this is a question we started asking, and again, I've shared this with the team, but it's, someone says, well, interest rates are too high. Be like, totally understand. They're definitely higher. But like, what does that mean to you? And just stop talking and ask the question, right? And so it's if you actually start dissecting what does it mean to you, most of the time, if it's the right time, it's the right time, right? People just want to understand it, and you can just understand that most fears are just mechanisms that we put up as human beings because our brain is designed to protect us from anything that could potentially negatively impact us, right? That's natural human nature. So I think it's continuing to have the conversations. It's coaching, like, and being on there, or running examples, or Brian and I've gotten on calls, and it's just like, hey, he's like, I had a client say this, and I didn't really know how to handle it. I'm like, okay, well, what was the outcome you were trying to accomplish? Well, X, Y, Z, and we'll just kind of go through that. Multiple things that we have, and I think AWM has some freaking amazing resources that come down to like the stuff that we can put out there, right? I mean, having MBS for amazing examples and like color tones to kind of showcase, categories and just the way that things really truly work. Having stuff with Barry Habib and some of the charts that he provides, that's really big. But I think it's also a really fine line of whether it's our own content, and you got to share it in the way that you say it, right? Like you can't just copy paste a script and go read it and that ever connect with somebody. We are best positioned to help the person we once were. So speak like you, talk like you, and educate like you, because you will speak to somebody that wants to work with you, that wants to learn from you, that wants to be educated by you. And I think that's the most crucial part. And that's like one thing I love about Braden, like just so unique in his approach. I mean, the man is just on fire when it comes to just providing that value. And I think that's the biggest piece. So for me, it's surrounding myself and building myself around a team of people that are advocates for that style, right? Being out there educating, like that drives me. And then to obviously some of the tech and stuff. So I love talking to the emotional aspect of everything and the mindset behind it and whys and all that stuff. But all your beliefs have to come from the data. The numbers are the only way you can actually create the beliefs. Otherwise, we're just guessing on how we feel. And that's never going to get us to the results that we typically want. So tech, systems, video, text messages, we're about to have a freaking awesome CRM integrated with everything that will just allow us to get more value to our clients, more of our mission statement, more of the things we believe and understand. And we study this stuff every single day. And so we just want to get that to as many people's hands as possible across the board.
Yeah, that's fantastic. You can both answer this one, but what are you working on right now? Like, so if you had to pick one thing to say, hey, I need to get better at this in 2024, or this is something I want to bring into my ecosystem, just give me an example of something that you guys are working on and focused on for next year.
Hey, I'll take it first. So, what Bryce was talking about, it's really about perfecting the system so that I can help more people. And so, and it's a fine line you got to ride, because right now with the world of AI, with technology, with automation, virtual assistants, funnels, like we have all of this stuff available to us. But you always still have to remember that human emotional aspect of it, right? Because as much tech as we can involve and as much as we can help our process, that's really just to help get to more people. So I'm like so focused on trying to implement systems to where it's working for me 24/7, right? Like with the social media, with the videos, like that is stuff that is capturing people's attention. And I'm just one individual. As much as I would love to just sit here and pick up my phone all day and just help one client after another, there's a better way to do things. And so if we can create systems that provide that, similar value, again, a little automated video that goes out to a client saying, hey, thank you so much for taking the first step of, reaching out to see if you can qualify. Here is what you can expect. Let's schedule a 15-minute phone call to go over those goals. Like, keep it exciting, keep it fun, because, in this transactional world that we have, like you have to remember, like this is a very emotional process for most people. Like they're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars. And especially for a first-time home buyer, that is a very terrifying thing. And so you can't forget that. And just always having the customer in mind, right? Keeping that human aspect, but using tech to reach more and more people. And so that's really what I'm focused on, is just getting that process in. So ultimately I can help more and more people realize their goal, overcome those fears, and just be available to more individuals so that they can do that.
You give me something to think about there, because my job at my desk here is really to listen and bring those tools. So what I'm hearing from you is, hey, the more people that I can reach, because at the end of the day, the technology is the vehicle. You are still the heart and soul of the message and what you're putting out there but the more access and the more folks that you can touch, the better your community will be. Bryce, what about you? What do you think? What's on your kind of board for the year?
So actually, I think there is an aspect that's somewhat similar to Braden, but I think it's the customer journey, which could be the loan officer journey, could be agent journey, could be the partner journey, whatever that is. And I think understanding exactly that, where the success we're at has been because of really a lot of just heart and grit and loving it, but realizing the industry itself has a very small percentage of duplicatability. And so putting myself in a position where time, effort, money, one of my best friends builds out systems. He's building out, all of the things I could possibly need and want to just love on my database, to love on my clients, to make sure, a lead that comes in doesn't get forgotten because of I'm in the middle of something, a text, I respond and I forget to put them in the CRM, right? So just making sure that we have these gates, we kind of have some of the blinders inside of our systems. I'm a sanguine, if anyone was a personality plus style book. So I'm a people, right? That means like I also have squirrel moments. And so giving myself the understanding that we can bring that together. And I think if I can master the experience of the onboarding, the questions, the functionality, what it is, what's your support tools, what's your resources, how does that work, along with obviously ADM and what we've been putting together and like the central, just amazing, then we can create an environment for everyone to thrive. And that's a big piece of a really big focus of mine right now. And one of the reasons why we're doing our business planning session today and doing these type of things and working with people like Braden, because he's trying to do that and having a place where he can work with someone like myself and vice versa to bounce ideas, to be like, hey, this is my workflow on this. I'm like, well, what if this was the question that was asked instead of that? Like, oh, okay. When, like just having the ability to constantly grow and adapt to it. I guess we just want to create an environment that's like just a beautiful rushing river, right? It's clear, it's moving, it's making things, it's creating life, it's developing something like that. We don't want to be the stagnant, lake by any means that just kind of grows mold. And I think that's really important for me, is to make sure that we have an environment that allows us to have that. And candidly, and I don't know if I ever told you this, but I interviewed 18 different mortgage companies before I pulled the trigger to join AWM.
Did not know that.
So
wow.
I went really deep into understanding people, like their systems, their process, their association. And I was like, yeah, this is it. And I think being in a place where we kind of have, I call it the builder model, right? It allows us to really build something and put us in a best position to help our clients win, help our partners win, provide the resources. So for me, 2023 was the year of absolute clarity, hands down. Did I make the most money ever? No. But I feel like I made more money than I ever could because of the clarity that's being provided and the understanding of what's happening and the relationships that are being built. So that's a really, really big focus for me, is just giving as much value, sharing with as many people as possible. This is what we have. This is what we're building. This is the vision. This is the mission. And it's like you said, it's mission over commission any day, every day of the week. And it's making sure that people want to ride that wave. And if they do, then I need to make sure that there is a plug and play way to make sure that they're in there and we're having our touch points and we're just providing a resource best possible. So I think that's a big one. That's a really, really big one. And it's just creating a place where people can grow, like I said, as people.
You covered a lot. You covered a lot of territory there, but I think some of the key things that I picked up on is, first of all, it's always evolving, right? It's always growing, and that's the challenge it's the challenge, but to me, it's also the beauty of our business. I've always said the one thing you can count on in the mortgage business is change.
Yeah.
And if you're willing to embrace that, accept it, use it as a point of inspiration, I guess, really. And so for us and for me, it's about, not being satisfied with where you're at. Not that you need to consistently be changing, but you're always looking at your process. You're looking at whether it's technology, whether it's people, whatever the case may be. And always thinking about how you might improve things. So it's sort of evolving your business, but at the same time, it is still a relationship business, right? You guys get
Correct.
that. And so you not only are you leveraging technology, but you're also still real people with passion, with emotion that comes through in your day-to-day interactions with your customers. So congratulations on all of that. But guys, look, this has been a fantastic conversation, and I sincerely appreciate the opportunity to work with you. And I'm proud to have both of you on the team here at AWM. Congratulations to both of you for what you've built. You're building a fantastic business, and no doubt in my mind that this is going to be a successful group. So thanks, guys. I really appreciate your time today.
Of course, we appreciate you and, your support and trust in us to, let us do this. And again, your coachability, right? Like it all comes down to learning. We've never all figured it out. So, you just trusting us to try something new, to see if it works, like that says everything about who you are as an individual, a business owner. And so we're excited to be on this journey with you, man.
Yeah. Wonderful. Wonderful.
100%.
All right, guys. Well, thank you again.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, guys. Don't make a great day.